Okay, awesome. So, welcome to Communicating with the Akashic Records. For tonight's class, you will want a pen and paper. We will be doing an exercise later, but at first, I would like to give you some information about the Akashic Records. So, I do have the chat up. Before I begin, I just wanted to know, have you ever experienced the Akashic Records? Or do you know about the Akashic Records? Just put yes in the chat if you want to, and we'll get started. Nice. We got some yes. That's awesome. So I know some people are doing the replay and aren't making the live tonight. So that's okay. You can do the video, and then if you have any questions, message me. Lots of beginners with this, which I love beginners. So we have very little knowledge. Yes, yes, right on. So let's get started first. So Akashic Records to me is very interesting because I do feel that when I am receiving information sometimes, whether it's doing personal readings or readings for other people, it's good to understand where you're getting your information from. But first, I want to start with the concept of Akashic Records and where it originated from. So I believe that it originated with Madame Helena Blavatsky, and she is one of my favorite occultists. And she is a very important part of the spiritual movement when it comes to the occult and theology. And the term Akasha comes from the Sanskrit Akasha, meaning ether or sky or space or atmosphere. And the modern origins of the Akashic Records can be traced to the mid 1800s. There's several generations of psychics and teachers that have developed methods to access or read the Akashic Records through prayer, meditation, and psychic techniques. So, who is Madame Blavatsky? So, like I said, she's one of my favorite people. So, when I started delving into the spiritual world and trying to understand certain things, she crossed my path. And she's amazing to me. She was born in August 1831 and lived until 1891. And she's known as Madame Blavatsky. And she was a Russian and American mystic and writer who co founded the Theosophical Society. And she gained an international following as the founder of Theosophy as a belief system. So she was born into an aristocratic family in Russia, and she arrived in the US in 1873. But she traveled a lot and she studied a lot. And she was someone that when she came into the US, she ended up in Vermont. And at that time, there was this era of epidemic of raps where these psychic events were said to be spirits that would make rapping sounds on tables and walls. And some of you have been with me doing the tapping on the table and that sort of thing. So she was known to be connected to spirits that would make these rapping sounds on tables and walls. And she would communicate with the spirits who were also trying to communicate with the living. And on her arrival, the spirits became more spectacular, more than ever. So she grew, and her practice grew, and she became very good with it. And it was where she got known for. A reporter visited her with one of her sessions and wrote about her in his newspaper. That is how she became a celebrity in the spiritual movement. So some people will describe her as someone who faked paranormal phenomena. We have skeptics, which is, all right, but there's skeptics, right? I get skeptics when they come for a reading as well. But there was two verifiable contributions that happened. One was giving occultism an eastward orientation and helping to turn Europeans and Americans toward Eastern religions and philosophies. So she was, in fact, an instrument with encouraging the West to turn towards India for spiritual enlightenment. And she actually did live in India for a while. So, like I said, she traveled around studying many cultures and spirituality. So she also dug deeper than most spirit rappers. And like I said, she founded the Theosophical Society and she published articles about her philosophy. And her belief was to challenge the modern thought. Okay. She thought that occultism provided a type of religion or a way, and after all of that, the rise of spiritualism and occultism were intimately tied to Christianity being a crisis, right? The aspect of this crisis was a liberal Christianity to the idea that there was eternal damnation. There was thought incompatible with the notion of a loving God and other aspects such as geology, crystals that also dated back far further than the religion, right? Than the Bible's teachings. Um, so they were right in the middle of liberal Christianity in the US, as well as, trying to stand up for beliefs and that sort of thing. So she was right in the middle of that. She kind of paved the way for, all psychics and that sort of thing. So people were searching for ways to believe in the spiritual context, and they were excited of the spiritualism that she offered. It was a new way to connect with the spiritual outside of religious orthodoxies. So she had no problem incorporating Taoism in her reading. So she practiced Hindu cosmology, and she really had a struggle between science and religion. So she drew in ancient sources and ancient wisdom where she connected with, like I said, India. And she actually lived in India from 1879 to 1885. And that's where the spirituality really spread rapidly. And they're really into mysticism and, connecting to different levels in consciousness. And of course, chakras. A lot of my followers and a lot of my customers, I have huge uh, following from India. So this is old. This is from, the 1880s, right? So she and this philosophy was also spreading rapidly, and it was annoying the Christian missionaries and the ruling British. So one of her first books was Isis Unveiled. And if you haven't read it, check it out. It's an amazing book. And that's what she was really known for, is that first book that she wrote. Isis Unveiled is what it's called. So this Akasha was introduced into the language of occult thought through Helena. And when I talk about occult, I mean the occult when you're doing oracle cards, when you're connecting to spirit, when you're meditating, all of those are occult practices. Okay. But she categorized connecting to the Akasha as a sort of a life force. So she referred to the Akashic Records as indestructible tablets They were a place of astral light, and it would record both the present and the future of human thought and of human action. So she discussed the concept of Akashic Records in her writing and in her work. And there's actually another doctrine. It's called the Secret Doctrine of Madame Blavatsky. And in that, there was also this explored idea of the Akashic Records as a cosmic memory, a repository of universal knowledge and history. And she described it as a spiritual plane. And that's kind of how I see it. I see it as this plane of existence, or this astral light where all thoughts, all actions, and events throughout time are recorded. And many people will call the Akashic Records the Book of Life. And so if you hear the Book of Life or it's written in the Book of Life, they're referring as well as to the Akashic Records. So she believed that the Akashic Records held all this wisdom of humanity, and that it was all encompassing, not only individual experiences, but also a collective of knowledge, of civilizations, of the spiritual evolution of humanity. And she suggested that assessing the Akashic Records could provide insights into past lives. So when we do past life regression, we're connecting to the Akashic Records. That it was hidden truths and spiritual truths beyond ordinary human perception. And according to Blavatsky, highly evolved spiritual beings would possess the ability to access the Akashic Records through their heightened spiritual faculties. So she described these spiritualists as having direct knowledge and communication with the universal records, which they could draw upon for guidance and insights. And her teachings were also influenced in the New Age teachings, where there's concept gained through further popularity of connecting to the Akashic. So her exploration of the Akashic Records as a cosmic memory bank and as a source of spiritual wisdom has been influential in shaping the modern understandings of this concept. Now, there is nowadays, we can go on the computer and we can look at all of these different concepts of the Akashic Records and different teachings. Well, they didn't have that in the 1800s. And you can see how many people have delved into this amazing topic. So it's important to note that the concept of the Akashic Records has been interpreted and expanded by various individuals and organizations. And there's different perspectives and beliefs that exist regarding the nature of it. So, of course, you always want to connect to what feels right to you and go with that. But I would definitely delve into, I'm sure there's lots of YouTube channels and all kinds of stuff. So take it further after this workshop if you really connect with it. So, like I said, the Akashic Records are believed to be an astral plane or a dimension of all universal events, all thoughts, all words, all emotions, and intent has ever occurred in the past, in the present, as well as the future. So we can go and connect to the Akashic Records to find out, how we're going to do in the future regarding certain information. And this energy is not just humans, but all entities and all life forms. So anything with a life force is connected to the Akashic Records. And they are believed to be encoded in a non physical plane of existence, which is also known as the mental plane. So there's no evidence for the existence of Akashic Records. Everybody's information and connection is their own personal, and the concept hasn't been studied. People haven't paid too much attention, or there's not very much scientific research about the spiritual theory. So The Akashic is the eternal divine consciousness, and it is unconditioned and it is infinite. So, in the book that I mentioned earlier, Isis Unveiled, and that's the first book that Helena wrote. The Akashic is defined as a source of all life. Let me just, there we go. Okay, welcome. So you'll just need a pen and paper. And we're just getting into the info about it all. So, where was I? So, in Isis Unveiled, okay, that was the first book of Helena. The Akasha is defined as a life force, right? It's the source of all life. It's the reservoir of all energy and the motion behind every change of matter. And she later, in that book, talks about it as that the Akasha is the eternal divine consciousness. So I always see it as like the all seeing eye, right? That it is unconditioned and it's infinite. And in the entry for Akasha, she writes that it is also known as the unmanifested that radiates from Akasha. And I find that quite interesting because you got to think about it. You know, have you ever got an idea and you didn't act on that idea, but later on you saw somebody else do it? And it's like, how did they get the idea? Right? Well, the Akasha has everything that has ever existed is there, right? I see it as not only a plane of existence, but an entire dimension where we can learn about all kinds of things. So, the terms that I'm using, right? The terms for the one divine absolute reality or the supreme principle, which is also a cosmic cause, and the rootless root of all, which is both absolute divine spirit. Pardon me. As well as absolute divine substance, right? Is pure eternal consciousness and pure eternal matter. So I mentioned the secret doctrine that Helena has also written, and there was in there, in the first volume, there's the two of their ultimate essence are one of the same. The one eternal thing is how she puts it. So when you look around, right, look around you and see the myriad manifestations of life, right? It's so multiform. The life of motion, of change, right? What caused these? So from what is inexhaustible, right? From what inexhaustible source did they come, right? By what agency? By where our ideas and our intuition or communicating with spirit, right? When we manifest things ourself, we're manifesting from an idea and turning that into reality. So out of the invisible and subjective, they have entered our area of life and become visible and objective. So, the study of manifestation, which a lot of us is involved in, manifesting our life or manifesting whatever it is that we're creating in our life, you know, there is this huge power that we can tap into to help. And I find it's very important, and it's what we are communicating with. There's also, I want to go into the children of Akasha, right? The concrete evolutions from the spirit. It has force, which brought them into this force that will, in time, remove from the sight of man. So think about spirits, right? Think about elementals, which we'll get into in a little bit. So the Akasha is described as being infinite, and there can only be one infinite, one absolute, right? These can be neither infinites or absolutes. And in a universe supposed, our universe supposed to have boundaries, right? And in her doctrine, she goes further into that. So, as I said, the Akasha means space. And this doesn't mean the manifested space. We're talking about, a space that is spiritual, right? I want to also talk about the motion and the duration, right? So, students of the secret doctrine will be aware that there are four terms which occultists will use, and that represents connecting to the records of the Akashic or the Akashic libraries, which is also introduced to the West. Um, so let's go further into it. So that's a little a little bit about it. So the other thing is the Akashic records. Um, we can connect to anything, and they've been known, since the 1800s, um, and probably longer, right? Her calling it of the astral light or the Akashic must have been called something when she was studying her spirituality. So the Akasha itself is a source, it's the cause, and it's the life of all. So even when we do healings, we can connect to the Akashic records and receive the information or receive that channel of healing that we need. So within it, it was believed that there are seven planes of existence. That is sometimes described in the seven principles of Akasha. And it is pure eternal matter, which is inseparable from the pure eternal spirit. So they are the two and are forever one. So let's get into that a little bit. I want to go a little bit into the seven planes of existence. So she believed, just like the solar system, right? There is the planets. Then she believed that there was the seven planes of existence. The first plane being the plane of creation, and that is like the idea that we put forth. And then there is the plane of the laws of the universe. And I know a lot of you that took the mystic class or are part of it, we delve into the laws of the universe and the different universal laws. So that plane of existence we're connecting to when we're activating those laws. The next one, the third plane, is the guardians and guides. So we go to the creation. So you're thinking and asking the Akashic or the universe, what should I be doing? Right? Then the universal law that you're connected to and activating with and is in your life comes forward. Right now, you're connecting to the universal laws of manifestation or attraction or cause and effect, right? We're always connected to those universal laws. But when we start connecting to guardians and guides, and I'm talking about our guardian angels and our personal guides, we're actually connecting to a realm, a plane of existence, and that's the third plane. The fourth plane is spirit entities. So those who are connecting on a medium level, connecting to other spirits, people that have passed, that's its own law of existence. Okay, it's past the spirit guidance and the spirit guides, and it's reaching further into a whole other existence. And then we reach the now, and the now is also further. So, our present moment, the life force of our present moment, is actually further than connecting to the spirit entity, than connecting to the guardians and our spirit guides, than connecting to the universal law and creation. Like, isn't that mind blowing that, when we're connecting to our own personal self, in the present, we're reaching a realm that's further than those spiritual realms. And after that, there's the trees and the fairies, right? That's the sixth level of creation, and the seventh being rocks and earth. So connecting to the earth energy. So those are the existent, and they're also connected to the chakras. So for our root chakra, it's the rocks and the earth. For our sacral, or our sacral, it's the trees and the fairies. So if you need to balance that out, sit in the forest. When we are connecting to ourself and taking care of ourself, self-care, and our solar is our solar plexus, and that is connecting to the now, right? So people that are going too far ahead or stuck in the past, right? They might have some solar plexus issues. They're not receiving the wisdom that they need in the present. Then we have our heart chakra, which is the spirit and the entities. So our heart does connect to ghosts, spirits, entities, right? Um, Way showers, right? Spirits that show the way, right? And then we have our throat chakra, which actually connects to the guardians and guides. So our throat chakra, which is one reason why many of you have seen me call when I communicate with spirit, or when I'm communicating with different guides or gods or goddesses, I always chant their name to connect to them. Well, it's our throat chakra, which is another reason why people that do ritual will say things 3 times, because it's that through that throat chakra. And then we have our third eye, which divinely connects us to the universal laws. And our crown chakra is the power of creation and the things that we channel, what it is that we want to create, right? It is a part of that. So another thing that I want to get into is I talked about the elementals, right? So in this astral light, there are the elementals, and some of you may believe in elementals, some of you may not. I am a believer. I've had experiences with elementals, and I believe they are our root makers to many things. So elementals have been um, a huge interest to many people when it comes to the subject of the astral plane. So, elementals are widely misunderstood, but they are also connected to Madame Helena's philosophy, right? Where they're a typical spiritual seeker of today may think of elemental as this friendly little entity resembling, this human being in appearance, and believes that it's good to make contact with them and communicate with them. And these elementals are also known as nature spirits. But according to the original teachings of nature spirits and elementals, elementals are quite complex. So they seem to be unaware of their actual nature, their function, and their characteristic when it comes to connecting and the involvement of the astral light. So they are known as astral plane. They are also psychic power. They have been called by Madame as the psychic atmosphere of the earth, which is in a large energy when it comes to the physical material plane. So I believe all the different planes can communicate with each other, and that this energy is about connecting to these powers of creation and these powers that we can communicate, so we can actually have conversations with elementals, and they help us when it comes to what it is that we want to create. So there's an elemental is actually known as the center of force. Without, I want to say, without intelligence, but they're capable of directing us and directing the movements of nature by human thought. So our thoughts connect to the elementals. And sometimes they give us a form, sometimes they don't give us a form, but they are a certain um, connection that helps us. So let me get a little bit clearer on that. so, so elementals are centers of force, they're centers of energy, which is acted on by us when we're thinking and when we're using our physical motions. Okay. So they'll determine what movement and what element and what energy it is that we need when we are creating something, right? So when we're calling in health, element of earth, right? Some of us will consciously connect to the element of earth for health and wealth. Well, because we know that is the elemental power connected to what it is that we're connecting to. So the forms of elementals, think of them as energy centers of energy right now, unless you've taken some of my classes on it. So in the astral light, in the Akashic Records, the elementals are energetic centers. And the world of the elementals is an important factor in our world and when it comes to what it is that we are connecting to, as far as why, who, what we want to bring into our life. So the elemental is beyond our power, but it is seen as a very important process when it comes to what it is that we are manifesting or what information where we are receiving. Okay. So I want to go into think about the elemental sprites, right? The little cute fairies and sprites. Well, they take part in every movement in nature, right? And they're connected to humans all over the globe. Every thought will stir up and use an elemental. It's the motion of wind, right? The rays of the sun, the fluids in our body, the motions of our organs. They all do the same thing. And these elementals are like the nerves of nature. They can connect to any department of life, and they can also act by the universal law, right? And they will also, like our thoughts, fly place to place. Well, they can also connect to different things. So look at them almost like root makers of what it is that we want to manifest, right? So when we are connecting to the Akashic, it's the air, it's the earth, it's the water, it's these elements, the fire, right? It's these elements that are a power source that are helping us materialize whatever information that we want. Okay, so the elementals are centers of energy in the astral light. The elemental world, or the world of elementals, is just like the astral realm. They are an astral world of their own, connected to the Akashic records, but the elementals are also the nerves of nature. And every single thought we think comes joined to an elemental through which it becomes a living thing in the astral light. And we have our own elementals that partake of our nature and of our thoughts. So, just like we have a spirit guide, guardian angel, we also have elementals. And if you have pets in your home, you have even more elementals. So, elementals are involved in everything, in every department of life. And it's really important to know that because the importance of connecting to nature also ties into the importance of connecting to the information that we want from the Akashic records. So it's a very fundamental teaching or a principle that our thoughts work with elementals and is, part of nature as we are. And you'll know that some of you are air, some of you are fire, whether it's your birthday, month, or sign, or what you're innately connected to. So connecting to the elements is quite important. And as I said, every thought is connected to an inner world, and also is becomes active by an entity, right? Negative people will attract negative spirits, right? So whatever thought we have, whatever information we're channeling, we are in connection, not just with the Akashic Records, but these intelligent forces and these different kingdoms that create even more in our mind or more in our life, right? So just know, when we are connecting to the Akashic Records, there is a power there. So one thing that I want to get into is the 7 principles of consciousness. So there's the 7 principles of existence. Now I want to go into the 7 principles of consciousness. And this is really a key to understand the Akashic Records as well. So when it comes to, I might have to take a sip. I might have to take a sip. So when it comes to connecting to the Akasha, there is a few steps. And there is some levels of consciousness. So whatever we are going there for, or whatever level of consciousness we are in, we're connecting to a certain realm, let's say. So the first one is the physical body, right? During human life, we receive the effects that is divine, that is developed by our principles, by how we treat our vehicle, like our temple, our body, our physical body. So our physical body is connected to a higher principle. And the better the health, the better the longevity of the physical body, the more, healthier we become, and the more bright we become, let's say. So the first level is the physical body, right? So throughout one's life, the actions of the other 6 principles that I'm going to go into becomes higher than our physical body, right? So the second one is, well, okay, wait. So our physical body, right? Throughout our life, our actions are connected to the other principles that I'm going to go into. But our physical body is the subtle environment because of what we received, as well as the influences that materializes in our body, right? So this is a subtle principle of consciousness, where the other hand is that the actions of the individual will reach the external world. So the first principle is that we do actually have to struggle and work at keeping our physical body healthy, right? And we all have dealt with health issues and stuff, where this is different than the immortal soul, which is a whole different level of consciousness, right? So the second level of consciousness is the life force of energy, which is also known as prana, right? That's what Helena believed, that this life force was indispensable and connected to the higher, lower principles. And throughout the process of learning about our soul and about the purity of our energy that's right for us, the essential practice was essential. Like, this is our energy is essential for our vital energies of prana, which would be used to correct the ways in our life or how we live. Okay, so the second principle is prana. The third principle was is the astral form. And according to Helena, this is the astral form, connects to the astral planes of existence. And it was the key to spirituality. It was looked up as almost like a phantom form. Um, so she used the term astral when it came to the reservoir of life to the body, right? It was an instrument through which prana gives life to the physical body, but that subtle structure, the karmic energy that's determined, all absorbs into the prana and transmits it into the physical frame. So it's almost like, a genetic tie of these different levels of consciousness and how they will create, our physical body. The fourth was the principle of emotions, the seat of emotions, our desires and our passions. And those energies, the emotions, desires, and passions, is the center of the animal man, right? It's the fourth and the fifth principle where we find this line of determination between the mortal man and the immortal man. So she connected that as, you know, the situation. Let's take a look at the situation after physical death, right? This fourth realm would become the principle of consciousness, right? It is what's connected to the spirit world, but it can become a body or a form even after death. And that is also the representation of our element of a human being, right? The emotions at a personal level, which we do know that when we connect to the spirit world, sometimes, most of the time, we're connecting to that emotion of that person, right? So the fourth principle becomes pure through the loyalty to the immortal soul. And the fifth principle is the mind, the intelligence, right? It functions, right? The light of the mind connects to the mortal and to the mortal man. So our intelligence connects to the immortal spirit and soul of who we are, but is also part of our human existence, right? I hope you're following me. Um, so that's the fifth element, the fifth principle, or the fifth energy, or the fifth consciousness, right? So this also is connected to the self or the ego, which emerges after the higher consciousness defeats the lower consciousness. It enables itself to go into a blissful state, into a divine place. The sixth principle, many of you would have heard as the Buddhi, right? Where it's our spiritual soul, it's the vehicle, it's pure universal spirit. So we can get to that Buddhic state when we, consciously work on ourself, get past the ego, or connect to the ego in the right way, or tame that ego sometimes. But that Buddhic feeling that we can connect to, that purity, or the inner unity of the universe, is a source of spiritual intuition. So connecting to our psychic abilities, right? That we actually do go into this sixth state of consciousness, that Buddhic state, the awakening, let's call it, where we are growing and we're constantly growing and receiving information. And I think most of us have been in that place where, when you walk and you're in your flow, right? And that flow is amazing. Everything's lining up and there's nothing negative. And, however long we're in it, whether it's a couple hours or a week or a month, we've all hit that sixth principle where we go into that Buddhic state. The seventh principle and the seventh level of consciousness is the spirit, the true self. And this is one that is connected to the Akasha, or the absolute, the all seeing eye. And that is when we're in that Buddhic state and we're living without limitations. So you do have to go into a place where there is no limitations, right? You don't feel any constraint. And that energy is all about that connection between the immortal and the mortal. It's the bridge that connects the Buddhic state to the karmic state, right? It's the seven principles of these consciousnesses that we're connecting or I'm describing, but almost like as a ladder, right? It unites us with the spirit world, the heavens, the earth in our physical body. And it's actually a state that's written in the Bible, in Genesis 28, 10, 12. And that represents the ladder of Jacob, right, which unites the heaven and the earth. So these seven principles, the first one, right, the physical vehicle, the body or the instrument. The second one, the vitality or the prana. The third one, the astral, which is the double, the model, and the phantom body. We all have a spirit, right? And then the fourth one, the principle of the seat of our passions, the feelings of attachment, even the feelings of rejection are connected to that level of consciousness. The fifth one is our mind, the dual principle, where we gravitate towards the Buddhic state, or around the, the seat of our passions and feelings. So the fifth consciousness connects to either what's above the Buddhic state or below whatever passion or feeling of attachment we're connected to. The sixth, the Buddhic state, is a spiritual soul, which is universal compassion. Okay, it's connecting to that higher ascended masters. I always think of them when you're connected to that Buddhic state. And then the seventh is the supreme principle, which exists in unity with the absolute. Okay, so these are the levels of consciousness that actually help bridge us between the lower levels, but also the higher levels of connecting to the Akashic. We do have to be in a state to get into that place. So one thing is when we are working and developing our psychic abilities, we are benefiting and connecting to the Akashic records, right? So benefits of the Akashic records and doing readings for ourselves, it does enhance our intuition. It brings clarity. We can receive clarity on karmic patterns. Why does something keep happening? Why do I have this merry-go-round? So we can learn to understand about these patterns, not just patterns in our life now, but exploring past lives through the Akashic records. And we can also uncover why we have these reoccurring themes and issues that are affecting our present circumstances. And this is really good because you can help people as well as yourself break negative cycles and also make choices that are aligned to yourself. Pardon me on that. I don't know what that was. Which is great, right? We want to break cycles that are blocking our progress. The other thing we can do is we can heighten our awareness. So, working with Akashic Records encourages mindfulness and presence. So, as we connect to it, as we meditate, or as we go to the Akashic Records to receive information, every time we do that, we're developing a greater sense, a greater awareness of both our internal self and our external world around us. And this expands our awareness for sharpening our psychic skills, um, especially when it comes to clairvoyance and clairsentience. It can also connect to our spirit guides, right? Like I said, um, when we connect to the Akashic records, we're connecting to our spirit guides. So if you know you're connecting to your spirit guides, but you may not know who they are or what they look like, working with the Akashic records is definitely going to help you. So your spirit guides communicate through the Akashic records, and by learning how to access these records, we can have a direct line of communication with our guides, and we can enhance our ability to receive messages from them and the guidance from these higher planes, this higher plane of existence. The other thing is knowledge is power. So by understanding your soul's history and purpose through the Akashic records, we can cultivate a sense of empowerment that fuels our psychic journey. And this is an amazing awareness to have, because when we face our challenges, we can more confidently embrace our gifts, because we do need to use our gifts when we're dealing with challenges, right? That's one of the things that will help you get through your challenges, is tapping into your personal power and these gifts that are around you to help you get through it. So when we are working with the Akashic records, we do want to set clear intentions. So before you dive into the Akashic records, set a clear intention on what it is that you want to discover or understand. So I would say that's a first step, right? Intentions. So, what do you want to know? What are you going to the Akashic records for? Use your intentions as a guiding force during your journey into the records, and that will help your energy, and it will help you focus on specific areas that you want to know about. So, for example, what past life experiences my current relationship, right? You could use that as an intention to find the information. What psychic gifts do I possess that I'm not utilizing, right? So you can set your intention to receive the information. And if you don't do that, you're going to be sitting there. It's almost like sitting there in meditation, waiting for something to come to you, but the meditation, doesn't have a focus. So having an intention is important. The other step is creating a sacred space. You do need to be in a place of relaxation, and you do need to be in a place where you feel safe. You're entering a sacred space. So treat your work and going to the Akashic records as a sacred practice in a sacred space. And that environment will help your spirit and your mind go into a place of spiritual exploration. And if you design a quiet place where you won't be disturbed, where you wish to incorporate spiritual things. Maybe you want crystals or candles to help you enhance the atmosphere. You can do that. Music is good, but you don't want music that has voices, right? Or people talking. You'll have a very hard time connecting to the Akasha. The other thing is grounding yourself, right? Even though we want to reach higher spiritual heights and get up there, we're not actually getting up there. We're getting through there, right? But at first I always thought like the Akasha was way past the universe, way past the space. It's not. It's around us already, but even though we're going into a higher state, it is important for us to ground, and grounding is vital, because when we are engaging in higher energies like the Akasha records, um, visualizing our roots and connecting to the earth will help us have that sense of stability that we need when we're entering the Akashic records. So take time to ground yourself, breathe, visualize, visualize your feet and your energy going into the earth. And once you feel stable, then enter the Akashic records, which we're going to do. So I'm getting close to that. So The other one is entering the Akashic Records, right? Meditate. Begin with a meditation that will quiet the mind and connect to your higher self. I'm going to go over a certain prayer, I guess. So, a certain prayer that will help you connect to the Akashic Record. So, use a sacred prayer, the one that we'll use tonight, and that will help invoke the protection and invite access to the Akashic Records. And the third thing is to visualize, right? I like to picture a library or picture, this giant book of life that has everything in it. It's got all the records stored, or maybe it's, a space with scrolls. Visualize, try to visualize what the Akashic Records looks to you at first. You may not need to do that after, but when you first begin connecting to the Akasha and you visualize that, it's going to help walk yourself inside and locate your personal records. The other thing is record your findings. So, as you're receiving insight during your exploration of the records, take note of everything that comes through, any thoughts, any feelings, any images, and don't judge it. You can figure it out later, just write it down. So, have a written record, maybe your own journal called the Akasha Records or My Akasha Records, and write down what you can so that you can refer to all your readings. And if you take a look at it over time, you may have a bigger message or you may have a pattern that reveals itself. So, recording it is important. And nowadays, some people write it all down. You can also, voice record yourself as well. Oh, I see this, or, different things that come. I like to journal because as I journal, my higher self kind of takes form and completes my sentences. The other thing is you want to practice it regularly. So set some time, maybe you want to do it once a week, maybe you want to do it every day, maybe you want to do it on full moons, but set a practice because, like any other skill set, when you're engaging with the Akashic Records, it does require practice. And if you set a time each week, or if you consistently put together your sacred time to connect, it's going to become easier for you because your connection to the Akasha will be waiting for you to come to your appointment. Okay. Um, the other thing that will help invoke that Akashic record connection is, focusing on energy healing and physical healing. So, eat healthy and do Reiki or connect to your crystals or whatever it is that you do when you're working on yourself. Make sure you clear blocks. So, chakra work before is good. These practices will help open the flow of energy within yourself, which is also essential for honing your psychic gifts. So, just like we're connecting to our intuition, when we go into the Akashic records, we are connecting to like an essence. You kind of have to look at it like you're going there, you're connect, when you like someone or you don't, or you hug them and they feel good. At first, you're going to have to connect to the power of essence. And then, as you're connecting to that essence, your psychic gifts will start to awaken and connect to those energies. So it's essence, then it's your abilities, and then it's the information. So that's another reason why you don't want to try to connect when you're negative, or if you're stressed out, you're going to have a hard time connecting to that power. So when we're connecting to the Akashic records, we are strengthening our intuition, but also strengthening our intuition consciously in our life will also help us connect to that Akashic work. So know that when we're connecting, it's not only a journey, but it's an exploration of how we can transform certain energies in our life. And it's about empowering yourself to understand these deeper aspects and these higher states and our soul's purpose, but also honing our skills that align with our true essence. And that's what I love about it, is it's about personal growth and enriched connections to the universe that's around us, and diving into the mystical realm where all this knowledge is there waiting for us. So you can enjoy the experience when you're connecting to the Akashic Records. Every session offers healing. So maybe you're going there for what is my purpose? But every time you go to the Akashic Records, you're receiving a flow of healing energy. So know that that is a divine energy source. It's a divine life force. So just trying to connect to it and get your reading, you're receiving huge, amazing, immense energy that will also expand your psychic or spiritual abilities. So the Akashic Records operate on the highest level of unconditional love and healing. And because of that, we can trust our instincts. We can accept the first answer. We can accept the instincts that we receive when we're answering questions. We don't have to, go into second guessing ourselves. We can actually enjoy the process of going to the Akasha. The other thing is physical sensations are normal. So when we're connecting, you may feel swirling energy around you. You may feel temperature changes, or maybe sensations like a pulsing in your third eye or your hands. All of these are natural signs that you are healing and receiving energy shifts from our guide. So embrace these physical sensations and enjoy them. The other thing that I love about the Akashic Records is we are always safe. So no matter what, we do not have to worry about negative energy, right? There is no need to, put psychic protection up when you're accessing the Akashic Records, because these records exist in a space of divine energy, divine consciousness, unconditional love. So nothing can harm us and nothing can interfere with you. Now, some of you may want to cast a circle so that, there isn't any earth realm spirits trying to get you out of that. But when you're connecting and you are light, earth realm, negative earth realm spirits are not going to try to touch that light. They want to get away from that light. So, if you do feel like casting a circle, it's okay to do that. So we're going to do a little session, but as we do that, just know that accessing this energy can create transformative experiences for you. It can allow you to receive guidance. It can allow you to receive healing energy. Some of you may just want to connect to just have that healing energy flow through you, especially if you're trying to get into or get away from pain or any type of energy that's in your system. And it's insights into our soul's spiritual journey. So when we connect, this process is rooted not just in love, but in truth. And it's connecting to your Akashic records. Some of you, most of you probably believe in past lives, right? We can connect to all the different lives of ourselves. We can connect to any information that exists, right? So it's unlimited, which I like. The other thing is you don't need to try to train yourself to access the records. The ability is our birthright, and the process is simple. We just have to trust ourselves and know that we're connecting to a divine energy force. So that alone will help deepen your spiritual awareness. It'll help heal our past wounds or gain clarity in our life purpose. And it will also, give us assistance in what we need. Always say thank you for the guidance when you finish. That is like a number one rule. I find that whenever you say thank you, you're giving that gratefulness to the energy. And as I said, those spirits that are giving you the information or connecting you to the Akasha, you know, they're helping you. So say thank you. So let's do a little bit, okay? So I'm going to run you through this, and so you want to relax before we begin. And as I'm talking, just try to put together, write it down on your paper, what it is that your intention is. Okay? So, what do you want to know when we do this? And once you have your intention written down, I'm going to take a sip. Once you have your intention that you want to know, ask about past lives, or how do you, you know, what is it that you want to know? Write it down. So I want you to relax, close your eyes, and I'm going to take you through this. And as I said before, you'll get a recording, so you can try this again. You may also, listen to it or write it down so that you can do this same thing over and over again. Okay? So close your eyes and breathe and listen to me. So there is a library that contains everything about you, your life, all the things you've done, thought, felt in this lifetime, and the past. It's called the Akashic Records. It's a vibrational library in the fifth dimension, not an actual physical library. It contains all the information of the universe, of all beings, from the beginning of time and space. Even in the Old and New Testament of the Bible, it's called the Book of Life. The word Akasha comes from Sanskrit and means space, primary substance from which all things are formed. When you enter the Akashic Records, you are entering the soul's blueprint. The essence of what makes that soul is she or he or who they are. It is a very privileged and honored place to be. In the records, you can find out who, why, and what of any situation. In other words, why you choose certain experiences, relationships, issues, blocks, what you can do about it to create the life you really want. And who you really are based on your skills, your abilities, and gifts. You can experience past lives and see some possible future possibilities. You can also find out information on houses, paintings, times in history, pets, anything that is on the planet. The records are filled with wisdom. They are a source of information and understanding. There is no judgment, no negativity or meanness in the records, just pure knowledge. Anyone can enter their own records. What is vitally important is that when you enter the records, you have a clear understanding of what you're really looking for. You see the records, they're huge, and the data is mind blowing. Everything you've ever thought, felt, experienced is stored there. If you don't have a clear intention of why you're in there, you could get overwhelmed or lost in the information. When you go to the records with questions, your guides, your teachers, your angels, and elementals know how to direct you. You cannot enter another person's records without their permission unless you're receiving their acceptance, or are in a very close relationship with them. Even in those cases, if that person's higher self does not want you to access their records, they will shut you out. When you enter someone's records, you are moving about in the soul's history. If you don't know what you're doing, you can accelerate their soul's journey, and they may not be ready for it. The highest degree of integrity and intention is required in the records. Whenever your intentions are, it is what the records will reflect back to you. The quickest and easiest way to enter your record is through meditation, visualization, and or prayer. When you meditate, you access a higher dimension brain wave pattern, which allows you to enter the fifth dimension, where the records are. Just to be clear, the records aren't in a particular location, they're in an energetic dimension. So the only way to access them from the physical plane is through your higher self. When you meditate, you tap into that energy, into that field of energy, the super consciousness. There are simple ways to meditate. You may do a breath meditation, or repeat a mantra, or clear your mind, or focus on a point in front of you. If you choose on a breath meditation, do it a few times, in through your nose and out through your mouth, as if you're completing a full circle. Pay attention to your breath. And once you've spent a few minutes getting into the right zone, you can ask your higher self to enter the records. So take a few moments and just breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And I do that until I actually feel different. I can feel it in my mind. Now, mentally or out loud, repeat after me. I ask my guides, teachers, loved ones, angels to help me enter the Akashic Records to see myself in wholeness. I pray that my ego is kept out of the way and I am given the wisdom I need to see myself through the light of Akasha. The records are now open. The records are now open. The records are now open. Now think of the intention. Anything that you hear, feel, any images, any patterns with your eye, Eyes closed. Any colors? Write down. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Now, some of you may have received information, and some of you may not have. Now we're going to do one through visualization. And it does get easier as you do it, okay? So think of another intention. And I will also write down my intention, or when I'm doing it, I'll also write while my eyes are closed. Sometimes I come out of it and I'm like, what? And sometimes I'll come out with even words I didn't even know I wrote. So automatic handwriting is fun as well. So we're going to do another one. Let's see, I have some messages. Yes, you can connect to any information. If you're doing a reading for someone, okay, because before I do my readings, I have a little ritual where I call my Akashic energy to give me the reading and information I need for my client. Okay. But I will not go to the client's Akashic Records, if that makes sense. Okay. So we can find out about anything, anyone. Is there something that I need to focus on in my reading? That sort of thing. I'm not good with this chat thing, of obviously. Look at all these. Okay. So we're going to try a visualization next. And some of you, this might be easier. So again, you want to find your way. And after the course, you may find a YouTube meditation, or some people like binary beats when they're doing it. So you'll find your way. I'm just showing you what helps for me. Okay, so let's try the visualization one. So once again, you will want to close your eyes and breathe a few times. And as I said, when I do my breathing, I always feel something, like I feel a shift mentally. It's almost like my brain numbs out. Okay, put it that way. That's how I know I'm there. Another thing that I like to do is sometimes when I begin, if I really need to connect and I'm having trouble connecting, I'll do a chakra meditation. So I'll visualize each chakra starting with the root, and I'll visualize the color red, and then 7, and I do the countdown meditation. if I can't relax. So it'd be red is 7, orange is 6, yellow is 5, green is 4, light blue is 3, indigo blue as 2, and purple or violet purple as 1. And then I'll imagine white light. So focus on your breathing in your nose and out your mouth. And it's good to breathe in through your nose, count to 3, and then out to your mouth, count to 3. I'm just going to let you do that for a minute. So close your eyes, breathe in and out deeply until you feel relaxed. Now visualize yourself moving out of your body into the universe above. You keep going higher and higher up until you can go no further. Imagine being in front of a door. This is the door that allows you into the Akashic Records. Ask permission to enter the records. Ask your guides to help you enter. Once you are inside, ask for your records. Now, ask about your intention. What is it that you want to know? Pay attention to how the room feels around you, the temperature, who's with you. Any images or pop-ins, any colors. Any thoughts? Any words? Do you hear your own voice or someone else's? Any symbols? When you're finished, thank your guides for helping you. Then close the door behind you and return back to your body. And when you're ready, open your eyes and write it down. So I want you to also write down these questions and take this further. And if you ask and get these answers, you'll definitely be connecting. So before I move on, some of you may have heard your own voice, and that is okay, because if you heard your own voice, you're communicating with your higher self. Some of you may have heard a male or a female, or maybe your gift of knowingness was giving you the answer, right? So I always go through my psychic senses, all my clairs. What do I see? What do I feel? What do I smell, right? What do I hear? So when I go through my clairs while I'm in the Akashic Records, it will help connect to the information that's coming through. Okay? So keep giving this a try. Once the video is finished, I will give that to everyone, as well as the prayer we used and the visualization. Okay? So here's a list of things I want you to ask in the future, just to keep you going. One is, what is your life's purpose? Okay? I mean, that could be huge, and it changes all the time. But to ask the Akashic Records that could be pretty awesome. So, what is your life's purpose is the first one. The second one is, what lessons are you here to learn? The third one, what are your unique gifts, talents, and abilities? The next one, why are you attracting a certain kind of relationship or friendship? The fifth one, why are you having health or money issues if you are, right? So if you feel like crap one day or you're dealing with health issues, ask why and what you need to do. I like to get the solution. Sometimes it's easy. And they will usually give you a symbol. So why do I have health issues? Maybe you see an apple. That would represent, eat more apples, right? It may help you. Or so pay attention to the symbols and then follow it. The next one, how to get unstuck. Okay, why are you stuck, or how to get unstuck? So think of a topic you feel stuck in and ask. The next one, what do you need to do to move forward? So we want to know about some of that future stuff, right? What do you need to do to move forward? Of course, you'll want to ask, which guides, angels, and loved ones are helping you on the other side? And see who comes forward or what names or people. The next one, who is my spirit guide? I'd like to meet them. And that one you want to do, I did it over and over again until I actually experienced my spirit guide. And then once I learned who my spirit guide was, they started bringing me lessons. The next one, find out about a past life. So show me one of my past lives. And the next one, I want you to go to the Akashic Records to heal yourself. So I'm here to heal myself. So do those. And if you don't receive answers during your session, you may also receive them in a dream. Now, we did these sessions 5 minutes each. Give yourself, 20 to 30 minutes if you can, and let yourself just, almost like you're going for a nap, right? If you give yourself a longer session, you're going to receive more information. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Let me check. Or anything they'd like to share? Nice. Aw, someone got tears. You got Ankh. So eternal life and connecting to the key, right, of the Ankh. Egyptian spirituality is around you. Tears. So was that seeing tears or tears came? Because the tears would represent a release. Yeah, that's awesome. Fifth is eternal soul. Aw, so there was an emotional release. Yeah. You received energy. You received a flow. Okay. Aw, you saw. Oh, that's awesome. So you had an experience with someone, your guardian angel. Aw, that's amazing. Gave me goosebumps. Thunderbird. That's cool. Wow. So again, Thunderbird is a healing energy, bringing you the power to heal. Aw, you're gonna be crying all night. That's a good thing. I'm sorry. No, I'm not. Wow, you felt a pain in your right shoulder near your neck. Yeah, definitely carrying too much. And that throat chakra, right? And you said on what? The right side? Oh, so the right side is definitely not yours to carry. It's energy that needed to be released. Wow, your cat wouldn't leave you alone. Well, they see into that astral plane. They're definitely connected. That is awesome. So that is everything for tonight. So, like I said, I'll email everyone their copy, and I will also give you that little visualization I did. Probably be on a PDF, and you can do it over and over, and try finding some videos that you can watch on connecting to the Akashic or music, and keep practicing. When I asked about blocks, heavy feeling in my diaphragm. So diaphragm, so that is in between the heart and the solar plexus. So heart and then the solar plexus would be connecting to the now energy. So in between those two states, you are there's something that you're worried about. There's something that's stressing you out. So get rid of that worry. Any worries, ask the spirit now. Now you can go to the Akasha and say, this is happening. What do I do? And you'll receive that information. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to let you guys go. And, if you're still in that relaxed place, let yourself stay there tonight and take it further. When you go to bed tonight, you can ask, okay, I want to know this. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thanks for joining and have a great night. Take care. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Bye-bye.